The Sony BRAVIA 8 and the LG C4, two brilliant mid-range TVs that both picked up what Hi-Fi awards this year, and both are solid recommendations in their own right. But the real question is, which one deserves a spot in your living room? Hey guys, Louis here from Smart Home Sounds, back with another big TV head-to-head. Now, in last year's version of this video, I said that comparison is the thief of joy, and let's be honest, that's still true when you're looking at two great TVs like these behind me. But comparison is also how we nail down the perfect TV for you. After putting these two head-to-head, I found a few potential deal breakers which could help you make your decision, and if those don't do the trick, then the real-world comparisons coming up just might. So let's dive in. First up, some key need-to-knows. Now, these TVs are considered mid-range within LG and Sony's lineup, sitting below both brands' flagship OLEDs, but could be seen as high-end in the wider market, offering an excellent balance of price and performance. They are available in different sizes, so both come in a 55, 65 and 77-inch variant, but the C4 is also available in a smaller 42-inch and 48-inch size, and a larger 83-inch, so straight away, that could be your decision made. Now, in terms of pricing, I'll flash up the current prices at the time of filming, though these do tend to fluctuate. However, right now, the 55-inch and 65-inch BRAVIA 8 is coming in around about £100 more than the C4, so the gap has closed up a little bit since the original launch prices of these models. Both TVs are WOLEDs, which means they're a more traditional OLED TV, missing out on some of the more advanced technology found in the flagship OLEDs from each brand. However, both do boast some pretty advanced processors and are a solid step up on their predecessors. The C4 is powered by LG's Alpha A9 AI processor 4K Gen 7, which is a slight step up on last year's Gen 6, whilst the BRAVIA 8 is powered by Sony's BRAVIA XR processor, which also uses AI to enhance the picture processing. Taking a closer look at the design, both are actually quite different looking TVs. Now, the BRAVIA 8 is a very premium looking TV with Sony's sleek, slim one-slate design and a thin bezel around the edge. Now, I'm a fan of the new leg design this year, which gives you extra flexibility and means that you can easily accommodate a soundbar underneath. This TV would also look really good wall mounted too. The C4 has a slimmer profile and actually has a super premium looking back panel design, though it's a shame that you don't really, or in most cases ever, see that. I personally prefer the legs on the BRAVIA 8 for flexibility, but if you're wall mounting this TV or have space to sit a soundbar in front of the center stand on the C4, then that design might work for you. The remotes are also worth highlighting too. Now, fans of the channel will know that I don't particularly love LG's Wii style remote, but it does offer lots of buttons, which I know that some of you guys will like. Now, the Sony remote, on the other hand, is a lot smaller and a lot more simple. It's slightly different this year, and I have to say that I'm not sure that I love the finish of this one. That being said, it is a more eco-friendly design made of 80% recycled materials, which is always great, but it's got this speckled finish, and it's just not as premium as the previous A80L's remote was, though I am glad it's still backlit and it's USB-C charged. Now, personally, I use an Apple TV probably 95% of the time with my TV at home, so I rarely interact with the TV's own OS, apart from the settings menus. Now, Sony use Google OS, which is a solid choice. It's easy to navigate, clean looking, and all around pretty slick. The settings are also really easy to use, and you have a lot of control over the picture quality, sound quality, and more. LG use LG's own WebOS, which is improving every year, and overall, I quite like it. We've got lots of apps, it's easy to personalize, and there's less ads. Now, I'm also a fan of the settings menu, and it's super easy to flick between different picture modes and dive deeper into more advanced settings. All in all, it will be personal preference, which one you prefer, but both are solid options in my opinion. It is, however, worth pointing out that both TVs offer support for HDR10, HLG, and Dolby Vision, but neither support HDR10+. Okay, on to my favourite part then, the picture quality. Now, I'm going to show you guys these TVs mostly in their standard modes, as this is what I feel the majority of people would be using. But it is really good to point out that both TVs do have a lot of settings that you can dive into to really tweak the picture to suit your preferences. Now, I will also show you some clips of them in their most accurate picture modes, as I know some of you would like to see that. First things first, both are bright TVs, especially for WOLEDs, and both would do well in a bright room and even better in a dark room. Now the C4 has the edge for HDR brightness, though in day-to-day viewing and across a wide range of content, I don't notice a drastic difference in the overall brightness of both TVs. Whites are definitely more white on the LG. Even if we take a closer look at the photo app here on the Apple TV, you can see the white around it is definitely brighter than it is on the Sony. This clip here is an example where you can see the brighter image on the C4 as well as brighter highlights here, but I would say that the Sony is offering better depth and contrast. For me, and considering that neither of these have the premium brightness technology of flagship OLEDs, I think they both offer decent brightness levels that would be good enough for most spaces. It would only be super bright spaces, or if you do a lot of daytime viewing, for example, that you might consider stepping up to a TV with QD OLED or MLA. Colours are another big thing with both of these TVs, and actually there are some big differences that we can highlight here. This clip here from Furiosa Mad Max really highlights the difference in the blue hues. They're deeper blue on the Sony here, though I can pick out more of the details here on the brighter C4 image. In this shot, skin tones are also quite different, and in most testing material, they're warmer on the BRAVIA 8. But then you flick over to a scene like this, and honestly, it's very tough to pick out any differences, and the two shots are near identical. I have to say that during my testing, there have been instances where the Sony image is verging on too vivid for my personal preference, and I've actually had to check to make sure I've not got it in vivid mode by mistake. Taking a look at Oppenheimer, again we can see the different levels of contrast and the difference in skin tones. I think the C4 colours looks more accurate and true to life here, but is maybe missing a bit of punch. The Sony offers a better sense of depth, which makes the image pop off the screen more, almost seeming more 3D, but the skin tones don't seem as accurate. If I flick them both into their respective accurate modes, so filmmaker on the LG and cinema mode on Sony, they are very different again. The whites are brighter on the Sony, which helps with some of the details here, and again, very different skin tones. Finally, this clip from Top Gun Maverick really shows the Sony looking too saturated. I would need to tweak the settings to find a more accurate picture. A quick fix, however, is to flick them into their accurate modes, and while we've sacrificed on brightness, we've now got a much more accurate image on the BRAVIA 8 with lifelike skin tones and colours. Surprisingly, out of the box, the Sony does seem to miss out on some of the colour accuracy that we're used to on their models. So for out-of-the-box accuracy, LG is stepping ahead of the Sony for me, but as I mentioned, it is pretty easy to adjust the Sony to find a picture quality that you're happy with. Plus, I have found that the BRAVIA 8 offers a more cinematic image and does a better job with depth to offer a more 3D image. Now, I've struggled to recreate that as well on the C4. Ultimately, the picture will come down to your personal preference, and I'm sure having seen those clips, you're already swaying one way or another. Now, whilst I'm here, I do just want to quickly talk about reflections, which can obviously affect your viewing experience with any TV. Both of these TVs do a really decent job at handling reflections. They're both nice and bright TVs to really help counteract potential issues, though in very dark scenes, the reflections are definitely noticeable. In terms of off-angle viewing, both did a decent job in testing. Now, I have seen some reports of the C4 having a noticeable green tint when viewed off-angle, but that's not something that we've picked up on in our testing. I would say that the BRAVIA 8 retains slightly more contrast at wider angles, but the C4 isn't bad at all. Motion handling is also great on both of these TVs. I've not really found any issues with either when watching sports or fast-paced action scenes, and for a broad range of content, they both performed brilliantly in this area. In terms of image processing, again, both do a great job with low quality content and low res content. Now, this is an area that Sony are particularly strong in, and Sony has long been viewed as offering the best processing. And while I do still feel that it has the edge on the C4, LG have definitely stepped up their game, and it's now a case that you have to really look for the differences rather than them jumping out at you. Taking all of our testing into consideration, both TVs have their own pros and cons for picture quality. The BRAVIA 8 offers an impressive performance given there's no MLA or QD OLED technology here, and it's a step up from the A80L, particularly in terms of brightness, crisp contrast and punchy colours. Most notably, I've been really impressed by the cinematic image that it gives. On the other hand, the C4 is arguably an even bigger step up over the C3. The A80L was a step ahead of the C3 for us last year, so the C4 has closed the gap in terms of overall picture performance for us, and for some of you, might offer an image that you prefer. The picture quality seems to have tightened up, and the sharper images and more realistic colours have impressed us, and it is the brighter of the two TVs. So there really is lots to think about and still more differences to cover, so let's move on. Now, we don't spend too long on sound performance with TVs, as we feel that many use a separate sound system with this level of TV. However, for those who don't, there is a clear winner for us here, and the BRAVIA 8 is a step up from the C4 for sound performance. The BRAVIA 8 features Acoustic Surface Audio Plus, where the screen becomes an actuator, which helps play sound better around the space. The vocals are good, the bass isn't bad, and for TV speakers, it's a pretty decent effort. Now, you can also pair either of these TVs with the brand soundbars, and they'll work together for a more enhanced performance. The C4 is actually notably sound performance-wise than the C3, but it's still second to the BRAVIA 8 for me. In terms of gaming, both are excellent choices. The Sony BRAVIA 8 has support for VRR, ALLM, perfect for PS5, and offers 4K gaming in 120Hz. Now, the brightness levels of the TV make it great for dark, moody games, so you can still spot things in the shadows, and the vivid colours helps games pop. As mentioned, only having two HDMI 2.1 ports, with one being eARC, could be a bit of a drawback, but if you've only got one console and a soundbar, then you're all good to go. The problem is, the C4 is just that bit better for gaming. It supports 4K gaming at up to 144Hz, supports Dolby Vision gaming, and has a full NVIDIA G-Sync VRR certification, as well as 4 HDMI 2.1 ports. When it's all written down, the C4 would definitely be the gaming TV to go for, but it's worth noting that the BRAVIA 8 ticks all of the boxes that the majority of gamers would be looking for. The C4 just takes it one step further. Now, some of you guys might be wondering why we didn't include the Samsung S90D in this comparison, and that's a very valid question. The truth is, here in the UK at least, I can't confidently confirm whether the model we had here to review is a QD OLED or a WOLED. Now, many believe that the S90D is a QD OLED, which would make it a strong contender against the C4 and BRAVIA 8, offering brighter visuals and vibrant colours. However, Samsung no longer clarifies the panel type of this model. Now, in the past, you could rely on specific codes in the model name, so DAE for QD OLED and DAT for WOLED, but Samsung has stated that these codes are no longer a reliable indicator, which feeds into the whole panel lottery conversation. Samsung claims that the panel type shouldn't affect the final image quality, but without both a WOLED S90D and QD OLED S90D here to compare, I can't confidently say how it stacks up against these two TVs, and I don't want to review one model knowing you might end up with a different one at home. So hopefully that's added some context for you guys. For us, the LG C4 and Sony BRAVIA 8 are two great TVs in the market. The LG C series is often our best all-rounder, and the C4 continues that trend. It's a great pick for a variety of content and spaces, and comes in a wider range of sizes to suit your needs. It also won What Hi-Fi's Best Gaming TV, and Best TV 40-inch to 43-inch, and 48-inch to 50-inch as well. The BRAVIA 8 has also been a top pick for us, and last year's AATL was one of our favourite TVs of the year. The BRAVIA 8 is What Hi-Fi's product of the year and best TV 55-inch and over, and we can absolutely see why. However, as pointed out throughout this video, neither TV is perfect. They both offer some compromises, and it really will be a case of deciding what are the most important factors for you in your decision making. Whether it's having the best gaming features, or the brightest picture, or the most cinematic picture, or simply whether the design fits your space. Hopefully somewhere throughout this comparison, we've highlighted some differences to help you decide which is best suited for you, and if we have, get in the comments and let us know. Now, if you want to know my personal preference, I came very close to siding with the C4, but the cinematic feel of the BRAVIA 8 won me over in the end. But honestly, I cannot wait to see what both these brands do next. The competition is definitely heating up.